3 lives lost, $85 million vanished, and the truth buried beneath the ruins. In the heart of New Orleans, the Hard Rock Hotel's crane collapse killed 3, injured dozens, and exposed how corporate cost-cutting, forged inspections, and ignored warnings led to catastrophe. Yet not a single person or company faced criminal charges. If profits mattered more than lives, how far did the cover-up go, and who made sure justice never came? In February 2018, a new partnership was announced on Canal Street. Hard Rock International joined forces with developer Mohan Kailas, setting out to transform the old Woolworths site into a towering hotel and residential complex. The project, widely reported as an $85 million venture, promised to reshape a key corner of New Orleans. But behind the glossy press releases and artist renderings, a different kind of pressure was building. From the outset, the boardroom set a clear directive: keep costs down and move fast. The project's estimated value became a benchmark not just for ambition, but for relentless efficiency. Internal emails referenced tight schedules and cost control as top priorities. Every delay, every overage meant money lost and reputations on the line. Executives expected results, on time and under budget. That urgency filtered quickly to the field. Contractors and subcontractors received marching orders to accelerate work. Meetings focused less on quality and more on timelines and bottom lines. The message was unmistakable: speed up, shave costs, find savings wherever possible. For a project of this size, every day mattered, every dollar counted, and every shortcut was a potential solution. This drive toward efficiency didn't just shape the schedule, it shaped the very bones of the building. Design changes were reviewed with an eye toward savings: less steel, fewer columns, lighter materials. The approval process for substitutions ran through a chain of corporate and engineering sign-offs. Each step weighed against the mandate to deliver more for less. Correspondence between developer and brand owner, though largely shielded from public view, points to a constant negotiation over costs, materials, and deadlines. On paper, the Hard Rock Hotel was a showcase of modern construction. In reality, the project became a proving ground for what happens when financial targets outweigh all else. The cost-speed directive, set in motion at the top, would ripple outward, shaping decisions on site, influencing every calculation, and ultimately setting the stage for what followed. Delmer Ramirez Palma arrived at the Hard Rock Hotel site in July 2019, bringing 17 years of metalwork experience to a job site already humming with urgency. He didn't need rumors or gut feelings to spot trouble. He had a laser level. As he moved across the unfinished floors, Delmer measured the concrete decks and columns with precision. The numbers didn't add up. Where a well-built structure should show less than an inch of deviation, Delmer's readings jumped between 2 and 3 inches. That kind of shift wasn't a minor settling or a harmless quirk. It was a red flag, waving in plain sight. Delmer logged his findings, noting the exact measurements. He reported them to his supervisors, once, then again, and again. 5 separate times, he brought hard data and clear warnings. Each time, the answer was the same: keep working. The schedule mattered more than the slope of the floor beneath his boots. For tradespeople, a building that's off by 2 or 3 inches isn't just an inconvenience. It means something fundamental is failing. The floors weren't just uneven, they were moving. Delmer's measurements captured the building's slow drift from safety into danger. The accepted tolerance for deviation in a high-rise is 3/4 of an inch to just over an inch. Delmer's numbers showed 2 to 3 times that, and the readings weren't steady. They shifted from day to day, sometimes even hour to hour. Delmer's warnings didn't come from guesswork. They came from tools and experience. He kept working, but he also kept watching. In interviews later aired by Univision, Delmer described the frustration and fear of being ignored. He knew what the numbers meant. He knew what could happen if nothing changed. The evidence was right there, etched in laser logs and echoed in his voice. The risk wasn't theoretical. It was measurable, growing, and ignored. The story of Delmer's warnings is more than a footnote. It's the moment when danger became undeniable, when the cost of cutting corners could be measured in inches, and the silence that followed those warnings set the stage for disaster. Stamped engineering documents for the Hard Rock project, though never released to the public, became the backbone of every legal and forensic examination that followed. According to attorneys and investigators with direct access, these records detail a series of substitutions that redefined the building's structural core. The most consequential change, replacing 24 W10 by 49 steel columns, each designed for heavy axial and moment loads, with just 12 W6 by 20 columns. On paper, the swap cut the number of columns in half. In practice, it slashed the stiffness of the building's main support system to just 1/8 of what the original design allowed. For anyone who's ever read a steel schedule, the numbers are unforgiving. A W10 by 49 column carries more than twice the load and resists bending far more effectively than a W6 by 20. The stamped calculations, referenced by OSHA and cited in litigation, show that the substituted columns dropped allowable axial capacity from about 220 kips down to 89. Moment capacity fell by more than 70%. The building's ability to resist deflection and buckling, its margin for error, was all but erased. The substitutions didn't stop at the columns. Beam schedules for the upper floors, especially the 16th, reveal another layer of risk. Beams were undersized, with calculations that failed to account for the full weight of construction loads, let alone the live loads of a finished hotel. Decking, specified by the manufacturer for a maximum 15-foot span, was pushed to 27 feet, an 80% overreach. The deck, only 3 inches thick, was never intended to bridge such a distance. Every additional foot of span compounded the risk of catastrophic failure, especially before the concrete had fully cured. Shop drawings and change orders, subpoenaed but sealed under court order, reportedly confirm these choices. They show bolt patterns that fail to meet standard spacing requirements and connections that leave little room for error. Forensic engineers reviewing the sealed files calculated that deflection in some areas was 3 times higher than design limits. The load path, the way weight is safely transferred from deck to beam to column to foundation, became unpredictable, with critical points relying on elements never meant to carry so much. No evidence has surfaced of material defects or faulty steel. The problem lay in the numbers themselves. The stamped approvals from Heaslip Engineering, later called grossly inadequate by OSHA, gave legal cover for changes that placed speed and savings ahead of safety. Each calculation, each signature, moved the project further from its original design and closer to collapse. The most damning detail: all of this was documented before a single worker noticed a shifting floor or a bent jack. The building's eventual instability was not a mystery waiting to be discovered in the field. It was written in the math, sealed in the paperwork, and filed away as just another cost-saving measure. Soon, the consequences of those numbers would become visible to everyone on site. On October 10, 2019, a worker's phone camera captured the warning signs. Concrete floors on the upper levels sagged under their own weight. Shoring jacks, meant to support tons of fresh concrete, were bent, twisted, and straining. In the video, workers point out the bulging deck and the metal columns bowing beneath it. Randy Gaspard, a contractor on site, posted the footage online with a blunt message: "Profits over safety. Sad." The images spread quickly, but the work continued. By the next morning, the atmosphere on the 14th floor was tense. Delmer Ramirez Palma, still carrying his laser level, felt the deck shift beneath his boots. The floor moved, not just subtly, but with a jolt, like an earthquake rolling through the unfinished building. Delmer's measurements jumped by 2, sometimes 3 inches, fluctuating moment to moment. He warned again. Something was wrong. The answer didn't change. The job had to move forward. Saturday, October 12th. Over 100 workers arrived before sunrise, scattered across the upper floors. At 9 a.m., a sharp crack echoed through the structure. Then a low, grinding groan. Seconds later, the top floors buckled and dropped, one after another, in a chain reaction. The building collapsed from the roof down, sending a cloud of concrete dust and steel fragments billowing over Canal Street. Delmer, working on the 14th floor, saw the slab beneath him give way. He leapt down to the 13th, then the 12th, then the 7th, scrambling as floors vanished behind him. He lost consciousness in the swirl of dust and debris. Others were not as fortunate. Quinnyon Wimberly, age 36, was crushed instantly. Anthony Magrette, 49, and Jose Ponce Arreola, 63, died where they stood. More than 30 others suffered injuries, broken bones, burns, puncture wounds, and trauma that would never fully heal. Trey Fournier, a 27-year-old ironworker, was on the 11th floor when the collapse began. His voice, caught on a frantic audio recording, is raw with fear. "My God, get us out of here!" Derrick Pate, a steel worker, was pinned by falling debris. His femur snapped. Later, from his hospital bed, Derrick said, "Somebody needs to be held accountable for it." The collapse left 2 300-foot tower cranes teetering over the ruins, threatening to come down at any moment. Rescue workers were forced to halt their search while engineers assessed the risk. For days, the bodies of 2 victims remained trapped in the wreckage, unreachable as the unstable cranes loomed overhead. The disaster on Canal Street was not a sudden, unpredictable accident. The signs were visible: bent shoring, moving floors, urgent warnings ignored. The consequences were immediate and irreversible. 3 men lost their lives. Dozens more carried wounds, both visible and hidden. And for everyone on site that morning, the memory of those final seconds would never fade. 2 steel giants towered over the wreckage at Canal Street, each one nearly 300 feet tall, both left crippled and unstable by the collapse. Rescue teams arriving at the scene faced a nightmare. The cranes, designed to lift tons of concrete and steel, now threatened to topple without warning. The fire chief, after surveying the site, told reporters he was amazed either crane was still standing. Engineers warned that even a minor shift in the debris could send them crashing down, endangering anyone below and putting much of downtown at risk. Emergency crews had no choice but to halt recovery efforts. The bodies of 2 workers remained trapped in the ruins, unreachable as long as the cranes loomed overhead. For days, family members gathered near the barricades, waiting for news that could not come. The unstable cranes dictated every move on site. City officials, demolition experts, and federal agencies argued over how to bring them down safely, knowing that a single miscalculation could trigger another disaster. 10 months passed before the last remains could be recovered. The cranes, once symbols of progress, became monuments to paralysis and danger. Throughout this period, the physical hazard on Canal Street made clear that the crisis was far from over. The collapse did not just kill 3 men and injure dozens more. It created a new threat that held a city hostage, while the search for answers and accountability stalled in the shadow of twisted steel. GPS logs later revealed a hard truth. The city inspectors assigned to the Hard Rock project never set foot on the site during key construction phases. Eric Treadaway and Julie Tweeter filed inspection reports for the 14th floor concrete pour, but their locations, tracked by city-issued devices, proved they were miles away. These were not isolated errors. The digital trail confirmed a pattern of rubber stamp approvals, with sign-offs submitted from offices, homes, anywhere but the job site. The city's own Office of Inspector General recommended felony charges. No indictments followed. After the collapse, OSHA launched its investigation. The findings were damning. Heaslip Engineering was cited for willful violations, deliberate, not accidental. 11 contractors received citations. The total penalty, $154,214. That sum, barely a fraction of a single victim's lost wages, was the only formal consequence for a disaster that killed 3 and wounded dozens. The grand jury heard evidence for over 2 years. No criminal charges were filed. The district attorney later blamed OSHA for withholding key investigative files, saying the missing evidence severely hampered any chance of prosecution. Requests for the full OSHA report remain unanswered. Delmer Ramirez Palma, who survived the collapse and spoke out about ignored warnings, was arrested by IC 2 days after his first TV interview. He was deported within weeks, leaving his wife and children behind. The timing was never explained. Worker advocates called it retaliation, a warning to anyone who might come forward. Hundreds of injured workers and families entered years of legal limbo. By late 2025, reports surfaced of confidential settlements between contractors and victims. The amounts, terms, and responsible parties remain sealed. No public reckoning, no published record. The site at 1031 Canal stands empty, 6 years after the collapse, a vacant lot where justice was promised but never delivered. For the families of Quinnyon Wimberly, Anthony Magrette, and Jose Ponce Arreola, there is no closure. Only silence, and a city left with an open wound. On October 12, 2019, 3 workers lost their lives, and over 30 were injured when the Hard Rock Hotel collapsed in downtown New Orleans. Engineering documents proved that critical supports were cut by 2/3, and inspection records were falsified. OSHA cited Heaslip Engineering for willful violations and fined 11 contractors, yet the total penalty was $154,214. No criminal charges were ever filed. The official explanation: key evidence was withheld and responsibility blurred. More than 400 victims settled confidentially, with amounts never made public. 6 years later, 1031 Canal Street remains vacant, and the family's request for a memorial was denied. The full set of engineering drawings and municipal records is still not available to the public. The facts are clear. Profit was prioritized over safety, warnings were ignored, and accountability vanished. The unanswered question remains: why did the system fail to deliver justice after so much evidence and loss?